Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Sophie.
And welcome to this special edition of Look North. Tonight, we focus on tourism, a crucial part of the economy in our region.
One of the undoubted hotspots is York. So how does this city manage the delicate balance between attracting visitors and preserving the heritage and environment?
We have 4 reports. In a moment, we'll be visiting the impressive Air Museum. We'll also be looking at the impact of the yen, dollar and euro on the Yorkshire economy. And we'll be visiting the National Trust Benningborough Hall to uncover a wartime love story.
But first, we're off to York Maze, which was recently voted York's best family attraction. And if you're a fan of Harry Potter, you're in for a real surprise.
Plunge into a world of witchcraft and wizardry at York Maze. Lose yourself in the magical mystery that surrounds the iconic boy wizard and his friends. Think potions, Hogwarts and butterbeer. Using more than 1 million maze plants, farmer Tom Piercy has captured the story of Harry Potter in the world's largest Spot the Difference competition. With the nation's economic downturn, could this summer add to the ever-increasing staycation trend? With more than 80,000 visitors in its short 8-week season, York Maze is definitely busier than your average family day out. Last year, over £89.9 billion was spent on domestic tourism. As an avid Harry Potter fan, I've come down to the maze to explore the ins and outs of an outdoor tourist attraction. And of course, indulge in a little Pottermania. As I walk into the maze, Farmer Tom tests my Potter knowledge, along with many other visitors, with 6 checkpoint questions that are scattered around the maze.
Hi there, are you ready for the Maze Masters Challenge? York Maze has been given a magical twist this year to commemorate the Farmer Folk and the Harry Potter series.
York Maze is Europe's largest maze and one of York's most popular summer visitor attractions. It's a seasonal attraction made from maize plants. And we plant over 1 million seeds in the springtime, and in July we open to the public and we welcome about 80,000 visitors through our gates over the summer.
However, the unreliable British weather may have a huge impact on our growing tourism.
Every day it rains is customers lost, and we have a very short season, so we've had some bad weather last week and it has affected our numbers quite badly, and unfortunately there's more bad weather planned, so that's why I'm not smiling today.
During the day on Wednesday, it was very, very sunny, and then it suddenly just completely changed. So that day we actually had like over 1,000 people here, and they all had to cram into the cafe, into that cafe, and then after that
we had to close the maze.
We had to close the maze.
It was quite bad. Everything got struck by lightning, and we had to close the maze. We had to for health and safety reasons. Yeah.
It's hard not to notice the damage brought by bad weather last week. I wonder if weather really does have a major impact on where we choose to go on holiday.
Because we'd rather have good weather and we can only secure it overseas, we probably would end up going abroad.
We go abroad mainly for the weather. If the weather was the same here as what it is on the continent, I don't think we'd go abroad anyway.
Go abroad if possible, but obviously this summer we decided to stay around because we've got a very young child. So it's just trying to have days out which are fun for the children.
Hopefully the sun will come out, and sometimes the maze gets a bit wet and we have to take desperate measures and go around with leaf blowers and try and dry it all out, but generally we get through. I mean, the recession seems to have had the effect that people can't afford to go abroad as much. I think people are staying at home, and when they're at home they're looking for something to do, and we seem to fit that bill quite well, so we seem to be doing okay and bucking the trend of the recession, I guess.
It was often said that there was no future in farming, but the diverse Tom Piercy has found an original way around this. The award-winning York Maze is open for visitors every day until September 4th.
The maze is a real success story and evidence that landowners can diversify from traditional farming into the potentially lucrative tourist market.
However, attractions with rich history and heritage already have an advantage. The former World War II bombing station at Elvington is now one of the UK's largest air museums. Rob went along to meet some of the volunteers who play an integral part in maintaining the aircraft and running the museum.
I'm reporting from the Yorkshire Air Museum, which is home to an array of exhibitions that are bringing history to life. Sitting just outside the city of York, The museum boasts a fleet of over 40 wartime planes, which are proudly displayed to the general public. A registered charity, the museum based at RAF Elvington receives no state or local government aid. Serving as a living memorial to all Allied Air Forces, the Air Museum's mission is to continue to tell the story of Yorkshire's rich aviation history.
Our role is to educate the public in the history of RAF Bomb Command and its Yorkshire connections, obviously, but also on a much broader scale because of our aircraft collection. We actually cover aviation history right from the beginning of flight.
Integral to the life of the museum are the generous donations received from far and wide. Not only do people kindly donate their Air Force memorabilia, but people here inside the museum provide their time and energy. The archive volunteers regularly find a home for a vast array of interesting items ranging from books to medals and even plane wreckage. If you take a look inside one of the many air hangars, you'll also find numerous volunteers dedicated to maintaining and restoring the iconic aircraft.
We do harness the enthusiasm of around about 140 volunteers who operate in all sorts of areas, from aircraft engineering, maintenance on the gardens, that sort of thing. And an important area is the archival work in the collections department.
What we do here is receive gifts from people, for example, they want to donate something relevant to the Second World War perhaps, something their grandfather did or grandmother did. You name it, we receive it.
I've come back to my first passion, which is aircraft. It's working with a great crowd of people that are all like-minded with aircraft and invariably have the same background as me, as having been in the military for some years. It's difficult sometimes when you've got volunteers on how you kind of all interact with each other. In the main, everybody helps each other. They have their own little projects, but everybody shares the work around, so it's good.
Without such dedication from volunteers, these snapshots of history would remain hidden from the general public.
It's well worth a visit. It's unique.
They can really experience it rather than just like watching it on TV and looking at it in books.
Everything's accessible, you know, easy to see everything and explore.
So how integral would you say the volunteers are to a museum such as the Yorkshire Air Museum?
How important is the word? Vitally important. Without us, they wouldn't be able to operate.
So just how much money does tourism generate for the economy in this part of the world?
When it comes to preserving the historic fabric of the city, do those who promote the city take this into account when they market York as a year-round attraction? We've been along to investigate.
York is renowned for its historical charm, attracting millions of visitors each year. Managing such high numbers of tourists can be a demanding task for a city only 105 square miles in size.
Tourism to York's economy is very important. We have 7.1 million visitors a year, contributing £443 million, so it's very important. And tourism also supports 23,000 jobs in the city.
Tourism is vital for the local economy. Many small businesses on streets like this, the Shambles, rely heavily, if not solely, on revenue from tourists.
So we're right in the centre of York in King's Square, about 500 yards from the Minster, and we get a lot of kind of passing trade. We completely live off the tourist trade, basically. If there was no such thing as tourists in York, then we wouldn't make any money at all.
We do rely on tourists a lot, obviously, from abroad and from home. Very positive impact for businesses and the city in general. It's nice that there's generally a buzz around York, especially in the nights of summer and Christmas, and good for business. Parking is awkward. I think lots of visitors have a big shock when they first come to pay for the parking. And I think the council could do more to help with this.
I think if you spend 4 hours parking fee, you need to be doing quite a lot in that 4 hours, and shopping is perhaps, in gift shops, low on the list.
With tourism playing such a significant key role in York's economy, visitor satisfaction is paramount.
I actually think it's tailored beautifully to tourists, which you would expect, I assume, but it's very clean, it's very friendly, everything's so very well located. I've been in many places across the country, and I've commented to my husband that I actually think this is one of the nicest places I've ever been in Britain.
Well, there's queues everywhere for the sightseeing. An extremely busy place at this time of year, particularly.
With such a booming tourism industry, York City Council has the responsibility of finding the best policies for achieving sustainable growth. Whilst revenue from increasing numbers of tourists is important to the city's economy, this must not come at the expense of York's rich heritage.
What I'd say we're involved in is the conservation of the heritage of the city, and we very much take the view that York is a living city, that it is the product of 2,000 years of almost continuous occupation, and that if York's going to be a successful city in the future, it's got to continue to change and grow. So we are developing a heritage policy for the city, so that heritage isn't seen as something that is a cold hand preventing change taking place. We don't have a very large number of heritage assets for which we are directly responsible. The city walls is the biggest example of that, and so we spend on average between 100 and 200,000 pounds a year. Actually, it achieves quite a lot in terms of ensuring that the city walls remain the iconic attraction that they are for the city. Clearly, 7 million people a year coming into the city imposes very large sort of stresses and strains. You know, you can see, you walk around the streets, there's a lot of people on the streets. We have a lot of issues around traffic and congestion. So, you know, putting in methods which try and manage those tourists is really important. It's what sets York apart from Leeds and everywhere else.
The challenge facing York City Council is how to strike a balance between heritage, the environment and tourism.
Well, joining us in the studio is Munglei Zhang from the York branch of Friends of the Earth. Munglei, is tourism killing this city?
Well, to some aspect, yes, but, well, we can't really ignore the fact that tourism does bring a lot of financial revenue into the city. However, then at the same time that, you know, tourism also brings pollution and increases bad traffic in the city. So yeah, it's a pro and con situation at the same time.
So what can Visit York and other organisations do to ensure that York's heritage is preserved?
Well, to us, we think Visit York and these tourist organisations are having strong ties with the government. We think if they have the ability, they should try to push, you know, regulations and restrictions that to make York a better place to visit, and at the same time the environment is protected and traffic is at least on what it is now.
Well, Munglei, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Well, for our final report, we travelled outside the city to a National Trust property, which has to work hard to balance history and fundraising.
We went to visit Benningborough Hall to see how the Trust is introducing new tours to keep the visitors coming back. And as Rosie Hebblethwaite reports, you can't beat a good old-fashioned love story.
At Benningborough Hall in North Yorkshire, love transcends the ages. Eternally etched in the wooden mantle of the downstairs fireplace is a World War II era love note between a Canadian airman and a local Yorkshire girl. The story of Ollie and Gypsy has captivated visitors in the 18th century Georgian manor for years now, but the whole tale has only been known for the past 18 months, thanks to one RAF veteran and National Trust volunteer, and a surprise visitor in the early 1990s.
Sad story in the end, actually, because he got shot down while he was out on a bomber air raid, and then became a prisoner of war, and they had these letters that went back and forth and sort of missed each other, and it was a bit of a sad affair. And
Ollie tried to give details of Gypsy, but unfortunately his state of mind was such that he couldn't actually remember all of her service details, and by the time that Gypsy found out that he was alive and well, and she got compassionate leave to go south, he'd already halfway home to Canada, and they never met again.
One day, one of our room guides was telling a story to this lady, and she burst into tears, and it was because it was actually her, the lady, Gypsy, and she gave us a little bit more information. I didn't know the graffiti was there, so it was quite a sort of heartfelt moment, really, I suppose.
Is that at the end of it, it's a case of remembering these people that, well, your age, you know, that gave up everything, really. And when you think of the fact that 9,990 Canadians were killed in Bomber Command alone, which was 3/4 of their losses during the war, it's a phenomenal amount. 55,000 Bomber Command aircrew were killed in total, which again is a phenomenal number. And it's not only that, you think about all of the families that have been involved, you know, people that have lost, you know, sons and daughters and brothers and dads, you know, whole generation gone. And I think it's very important that we keep these memories alive. If we don't do it now, we never will do.
And that's it from us. We hope you enjoyed this special edition of Look North.
On behalf of all the team who worked on the programme, thank you for watching and goodbye.
Goodbye.